Thank you for joining us on Finding God in the World of Video Games, and today we are discussing the Halo Outpost Discovery fan event that is popping up in select cities nationwide this summer. We had the opportunity to attend this one-of-a-kind experience, and we're here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly on our adventure.
You know, I can safely say that regardless of what you may have read online, if you are a massive Halo fan, this is a must-see attraction. I mean, where else are you going to find life-size replicas of the Master Chief, a Covenant Elite Soldier, and the Warthog?
Don't you mean the Puma?
No, no, the Warthog.
It looks more like a Puma.
You're insane. Well, and you can also see some amazing looking weapon replicas straight from the Halo universe, like the Needler, the Assault Rifle, and the Pistol. Some great opportunities for some sweet selfies, as well as learning a little bit more about our favorite Spartan in the Hall of Discovery.
I feel like the museum aspect of this exhibition was really well done.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But the interactive aspects were a little bit of a mixed bag. For example, while the escape room idea sounded really interesting during our visit, this attraction was plagued with technical issues and had a massive line that never really seemed to dwindle as a result.
Yeah, I feel bad for those people that waited like 3+ hours in those lines. I mean, the ring experience, which was touted as one of the highlights of the exhibit, took an over 3-hour wait for us.
Which was about the length of the ODST campaign, if I remember correctly.
Don't talk about ODST that way. Just don't. Don't even go that route.
But I am pretty sure we could have played through it and even watched the credits roll before we had ever got to the end.
But the lines were really the only major detractor for me from an otherwise really amazing experience. The target practice was really fun, the laser tag and VR play areas lived up to the hype, and until they ran out, there was some pretty cool exclusive merchandise to buy as well.
I agree. All in all, even with the excessive length of the lines, this was a great way to experience the Master Chief in a different way than you may have ever viewed him before. I know for me, while waiting in those interminably long lines, I'm not sure if we've mentioned that yet, I had an opportunity to reflect on the parts of the Master Chief and his life that may not be as well publicized as his other exploits. So let's see how up you are on your Master Chief history. Did you know that the Master Chief that we all know and love was once just a normal boy who was kidnapped from his family at the age of 6 to undergo the radical and incredibly illegal biological experiments that would forcibly evolve him into the massive physical specimen that he is in the games that we know and love? It's a pretty rough start to life. And then, as one of the few survivors of this process, he was stripped of his identity and given the simple code name that we now know him as, John 117. As he continued to progress, he watched most of his surviving comrades fall to the impossible odds they were continually placed in the various military operations that he endured, and then he finally found a friend. It wasn't a human, it was an artificial intelligence named Cortana, and then she would become the newest heartache in his life as he watched her begin to lose her mind and sacrifice herself and ultimately be reborn as an adversary. I mean, some pretty tough sledding for this guy. It's pretty easy for us to gloss over some of those details and focus only on his many victories, but the truth is that the Master Chief is as much defined by his pain, his suffering, and his losses, even more so than his many battlefield victories. It seems almost impossible to consider this iconic character as a loser, but if we define a loser as someone who routinely experiences loss, then this guy has that in spades. And here's where we all have a great deal more in common with this fictional character than may be apparent on the surface. I mean, we all have the distinction of dealing with loss and pain and the experience of losing on a near daily basis. And while this reveals itself in many different ways throughout our lives, the one constant is how this can often drive us away from God, wondering why this is happening to us, why He allows us pain to exist without stopping it, when we know He is able to. And if we look to the book of Job, we're going to find some answers. Across the first 2 chapters of the book of Job, we see perhaps the most tragic collection of losses a human being has endured without a single break. Verse after verse is a sword plunged into the heart of Job as he loses his wealth, all of his possessions, the lives of his servants, the lives of his children, all of his children, and finally his health. The fall of Job continues as his friends turn on him, and the one remaining member of his family, his very loyal wife, encourages him to curse God and die. Not sure he found that particular piece of advice helpful, but that's what she had for him. And as the losses piled up, it had to be impossible for Job to see a bright light at the end of any of these horrible tunnels. I can honestly say whatever your worst day on this planet turns out to be, it's really pretty hard to argue against the fact that Job has the market cornered on how to lose in truly epic fashion. This is a man who was left with nothing but sorrow and pain. But through this nonstop barrage of losing, we have an incredibly quotable response from Job that illustrates the character of this man of God. In Job 1, verses 20 through 22, we find Job's reaction to his tremendous losses, and we can sum it up with this phrase: "The Lord gives, and the Lord has taken away." Without a trace of the bitterness and resentment I know I would be feeling in that moment, Job illustrates his full understanding of the nature of our mortal existence. We came into this world with nothing, and we don't get a brain to carry on into the afterlife. All that we have are temporary gifts from God, which are meant to be used, given, and enjoyed. And when these are removed, we understand that just like checking a book out at the library, it all eventually returns to the owner. We never possessed any of it in the first place. We were merely caretakers of the gifts, relationships, and talents of what God has given us, and as illustrated in Matthew 25, there will one day be a reckoning in which we must give it all back. It would be absurd for someone to be disappointed when it is time to return a rental car at its predetermined time of return. But so often we treat our possessions, our relationships, and even our own lives as something that we're entitled to have and should possess some autonomy over their deployment. Job's response reveals the truth that we are creations, not creators. We are renters in this life, not owners, and truth be told, we can't even afford the rent. And herein lies the answer to our questions from what transpired between God and Satan at the beginning of all these events. God is not merciless in his approach to our emotions and our thoughts, but his priority is to our growth as his children. As great of a man of God as Job was, and as faithful as he had been in his relationship to the Lord, this experience revealed his need to see the sovereignty of God as something that extends beyond the ability of our mortal minds to grasp. Now, I've got an unfortunate surprise for you. God never comes to Job and says, "Oh, poor Job, I shouldn't have let this happen to you. I'm so very sorry." God didn't apologize for what happened. If you're waiting for that day, I'll forewarn you now, that is a long wait for a train that's never arriving at the station. As the owner of what he allows us to steward, he is entitled to ask for it back through whatever means he chooses, at whatever time he desires. But these are not the actions of a cruel or uncaring father. No, he personally provided us this unique insight through the book of Job into the workings of the throne room, so we would understand that there is always a purpose to the pain, and many times there is a replacement of more than what you have lost waiting for you, if you remain faithful and teachable, as Job clearly was. In Job 42, we see Job's response to this lesson: "I have declared without understanding things too wonderful for me to know." And we see that Job's response puts the responsibility right back on us, as we can see that it is not unfairness from the Lord that we are experiencing. It is his unbiased eye that sees our past, present, and future simultaneously that guides his decisions. And the sooner that we all understand this, the easier it will be to follow him along the way. The beauty of this is that Job's story doesn't end there with a costly lesson learned and the credits rolling along to a sad song. No, in Job 42:10, we find the conclusion of this tale ends with Job getting not just a replacement of everything he lost, but a double portion as well. Through his patient acceptance of the season of losing, he came out the other side with twice what he had entered with, complete with another 140 years of life to enjoy these new blessings. There is hope for those who have lost if we refuse to accept the bitterness that is often associated with losing. The story of Master Chief similarly may be filled with loss and pain, but it is through this that he became the galactic hero of not only humanity, but every alien species that he encountered as well in his adventures. His path to becoming a hero was built from his exceptional pain and tragic losses. But because of that painful path he walked, he and he alone would be able to make the tough decisions and take the critical actions that only someone who was equipped in this way and had endured this path could do. By accepting that there is a grander stage where our story is being played out, and a lesson that we are destined to learn even through the darkest pain, we can do more than just survive the losing. We can grow and gain from it, as long as the ground of our hearts remains soft to the touch of the Master's hand.